What up, everybody? Welcome to the cave. I'm your host, Apostle Marc T. May. What's going on? What's going on, man? I see you out there over in South Africa, Apostle Dietrich Gaskin. What's going on, man? Well, listen, come on in, everybody. Let's see. I changed some settings on here. It looks a little different. So hopefully I'm coming across okay. Everybody can hear me just fine. I may have to disable something that I just enabled. But anyway, y'all come on in. Welcome to the cave tonight. This is Apostle Marc T. May broadcasting live from Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. Come on in. Hashtag the cave. Hashtag the cave. Tell people to come on in. Call your friends. Text them. Tag them. Get them in the cave tonight. I'm going to be talking about prophets. And I'm going to talk about prophets in regard to warnings, judgments, and along those lines. So get some folk in here. We want to talk tonight. 3 a.m. over there. What's going on? That's good. Y'all pray for my friend Apostle Dietrich Gaskins. He's over in South Africa doing his ministry assignment over there. So y'all keep him up in prayer. Him and the team that traveled with him. And so we're going to talk about prophets, rejection, warnings, judgment, and more tonight. And so I'm going to come out of Ezekiel chapter 2 as we get ready to get into this. I'm going to be teaching. I want to talk about this because there's always some type of controversy that arises in the prophetic through prophetic voices, and with the social media age, or as they say out in these social media streets, you got folk out here saying stuff and doing stuff. And so I want to kind of keep the balance. All right. I'm considered to be an expert in the area of the prophetic, seeing that I've been teaching the prophetic for a number of years, probably more years than some of you that may be watching are old. And I want to get into the meat of the matter and talk about, again, warnings. Let's see. Talk about, I had to look at my own notes, prophets and rejection, warnings, judgment, and more. All right, because there's always something being said, somebody doing something. I'm glad to see y'all out here with me tonight. I already shouted out my friend Apostle Gaskins. Monique, thank you for being with me tonight. Robin, thank you for being on. Apostle Pam, thank you for being on as well. And so come on in, hashtag the cave. Let's get these Facebook algorithms going. If you're watching me on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate it. So look, I'm going to jump into Ezekiel chapter 2. Then I'm going to jump over into the New Testament and Luke in just a minute. But I want to kind of set some foundation, set some groundwork in regard to prophets. Now, I'm not going to get into this elementary school stuff about prophets, whether people are prophets or not prophets. We're not getting into that elementary school stuff. I'm coming from the standpoint. All right, we know that there are prophets. What is the responsibility of a prophet today? What is it that prophets do? How do they operate? Maybe I want to use the term maybe authorized to do, or to say, excuse me, or to function. Let's look at that. And so when I was looking at this today, I was thinking about, prophets and rejection. And if you are a prophet, listen, you're going to be rejected. And so what I want to look at for a moment, let's look at Ezekiel. In Ezekiel chapter 2, check out these instructions that he was getting from the Lord. Ezekiel chapter 2, starting at about verse 3, thereabouts. All right. And so we see here in verse 3, it says, and he said unto to me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that have rebelled against me. Look, let's stop right there before we get any further. So here is Ezekiel's assignment. God is telling him, this is where I'm going to send you. I'm going to send you to a rebellious people. So he knows who he's going to deal with. He knows what his assignment is. What's going on, Simon Stephanie? He knows what his assignment is. He's going to a rebellious people, all right? And then secondly, the Lord says to him, I'm sending you to a rebellious nation. And he says, they have rebelled what? Against me. So now God is sending the prophet to a nation that's rebellious. And then he goes on and tells them they have rebelled against me. Now they're not listening to God, but God yet is going to send the prophet and tell the prophet that they have rebelled against me before he even gets on this assignment. Now, how many of you would be willing to take on that assignment? Now, it goes on and it says they and their transgressed even on this very day. For they are imprudent children, and they are stiff-hearted. I do send thee unto them. Like I said, look, don't make no mistake. They're stiff-necked. It says they're imprudent, and he said, and I send you to them. And thou shalt say unto them, thus saith the Lord, I'm going to send you. I'm going to send you, and they're going to rebel because they rebelled against me, and you're going to tell them what I said. Now, look at that. I want y'all to grasp hold to this is his assignment. I'm sending you. You already know that they're going to rebel because they rebelled against God. All right, let's go. So now in verse, it says, whether they will hear you, whether they will hear, or whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house. So listen, whether they listen to you or not listen to you, this is your assignment. Whether they hear or whether they do not hear, this is your assignment. This is your call. These are the types of people that I'm going to send you to. Are you ready for that? Come on. Are you ready for that? Yeah. Okay. For they are a rebellious house, yet shall know that there has been a prophet among them. So check this out. So whether they hear you, whether they do hear you, but God says, but because I'm sending you on this assignment, whether they hear you or not, but I'm going to know that there has been a prophet among them. There's a prophet. This man was a prophet. This woman was a prophet. Whether you wanted to hear it, you didn't want to hear it, but when you get done, they're going to know that you are a prophet, and they're going to know that I sent you. So check this out. Let's go a little bit further. And thou, son of man, be not afraid of them, neither be afraid of their words. So everybody says, don't be afraid of them and don't be afraid of the words. Everybody is not going to respond in the way that you think they should respond when you speak a word that God has given you. So he says, don't be afraid of them and neither be afraid of what it is they're going to say to you, about you. Y'all ready? Are you ready for that? Though briars and thorns be with thee, all right? Even though stuff is going to prick up against you, even though things are going to come up against you, and thou dost dwell amongst scorpions. Come on, you're in briars and thorns, and you dwell amongst scorpions. Be not afraid of their words. Don't be afraid of what they're going to say to you. Don't be afraid of what they're going to say about you. for they are most rebellious. Then it goes on in verse 8, it says, but thou son of man, hear what I say unto you. Be not thou rebellious, like the rebellious house. Uh-oh, let's back that thing up. He says, now listen to what I'm going to say to you. Don't you be rebellious like the people I'm sending you to. Let me read it one more time. But thou son of man, hear what I say unto you. Be not thou rebellious like that rebellious house. Don't you be like them. Hello? Don't be like them. They're rebellious. I'm sending you to speak to this rebellious house, to this rebellious nation, but don't you be rebellious like them. Open up your mouth. Come on, open thy mouth. He says, and eat that which I give thee. And when I looked, behold, a hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a book therein. And he spread it before me, and it was written within and without. And there was written there on lamentations, mournings, and woe. In other words, when he said, look, you're going to, you're going to have to say what I tell you to say, whether they listen, whether they do not listen. You're going to have to take the bitter with the sweet. You're going to have to eat the whole roll. You're going to have to say the good. You're going to have to say the bad. You're going to have to take it all in. You're going to have to complete the assignment that I'm giving you, even though that's still, let's keep going back to that. Even though they're going to rebel against you, you still have to go to them. How many of y'all ready for an assignment like that? Don't be rebellious like the people that I send you to. In other words, don't conform to the ways of the people that you're being sent to. Come on. You have to come out from among them. You have to be separate. You cannot partake of what they're partaking. I'm sending you on an assignment, all right, to be my voice in that hard place and tell them, thus saith the Lord. So you got to take the bitter, you got to take the sweet. In other words, he was telling me you had to have a tough skin. I think later on in Ezekiel, the Lord tells him, look, I'm going to make your forehead like flint. I'm going to make it hard as a rock, so that you can take what it is that they're going to dish out to you. Come on, I'm going to give you the word. I'm going to put my word in your mouth, but I'm going to make your forehead like flint because they're going to resist. I'm going to make you tough enough to handle, the rejection. Here we go. And this is it. This is a key situation with prophets, and that is dealing with being rejected. Come on. Dealing with being rejected. Dealing with being rejected. How do you deal with rejection? What do you mean? Well, God sends you. He's telling Ezekiel that the house is rebellious. I'm sending you to them. They're not going to hear you, but I'm going to send you anyway. You're going to tell them what I said. You're going to do exactly as I've instructed you. Don't rebel like them, but do as I tell you. But you give them the word, and the people say, that ain't God. I'm not listening to you. Who sent you? Who told you you could speak in my life? Who told you to release that word over this body? Who told you to release the word in this city? Who told you to release that word in this country? Who told you that you could say that in this nation? And so you have to be able to handle the rejection. And one of the things he says too, he says, don't look at their faces. I mean, I've ministered to people, and if you look at the expression on their face, come on. And I know some of you been there. We got prophets on here tonight, apostles on here tonight. You see their face, and their face would make you not want to say anything, but you still have to complete the assignment. You have to give the word of the Lord to them, no matter what their face looks like. No matter what the expression is on their face, you have to give it to them. You have to give them the word. All right, let's go over now and let's look at you know what, before I get to, let me say this. So what is it that would have the prophet be in a position that if they give a word, the word is not received by the people that they are sent to or assigned to? What is it that makes them think that God should defend them? Oh boy. What is it that makes them think that God should defend them because somebody did not receive what they said? What is it? What is it? Well, I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm glad you asked. It's arrogance. Arrogance. Come on, let's define arrogance real quick. Let's define it. Let's define it. Let's make it nice and plain. Okay? An attitude of superiority manifested in an overbearing manner. Okay? An attitude of superiority manifested in an overbearing manner. In other words, you're expecting, thank you, I see you, Apostle, ego, pride. You expect that somebody ought to bow down to you just because of who you think you are. Here's another one. Unpleasantly proud and behaving as if you are more important than or know more than other people. Thinking that you're more important, come on, or behaving as if you're more important, thinking that you know more, or thinking that you're better than everybody else. Arrogance. Arrogance. It is your arrogance that will make you think that God is going to defend you because somebody did not receive the word that you release. Now, this is what happened. Let's go New Testament. This is what happened to James and John. Let's go to Luke chapter 9. Let's go to Luke chapter 9. Let's go to Luke chapter 9, verse 51. So let's look at that. So if you feel that if you give a word and it's not received, now I've seen this many times. This is one reason why part of that, what did I want to say? That arrogance and pride, and I deal with that in my book, The Wild Ass Spirit, Who Let It Loose in the Church. I deal with some of that in that book. And you can Google it and find it and get it. All right. It's a classic now. So you think that God should defend you. Now watch this. Let's look at this. Let's examine this in Luke chapter 9, verse 51. So one, thinking that God should defend you is an arrogant attitude, because our assignment, or the assignment should be, as Ezekiel was, deliver the word, speak the word, whether they hear you or whether they do not hear you, the scripture said in verse 5 in Ezekiel 2, it says, they will know that there's been a prophet among them. So whether they listen and follow your direction or receive the word, that has nothing to do with the prophetic office that you are in. Whether they hear you or they don't hear you, he told Ezekiel, they will know that there's been a prophet among them. See, rejection wants you to be accepted. Rejection wants to be accepted. And so if you can't deal with being rejected or not accepted, then you're going to have a real difficult time trying to be or operate in the office of the prophet. Now watch this here in verse 51. And it came to pass when the time was come that he should be received up, talking about Jesus, that he should be received up, he steadfastly set his face to go towards Jerusalem. All right. And so Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. Before he went to Jerusalem, it says in verse 52, he says, and he sent messengers before him. King James says he sent messengers before his face. And they went and they entered into the village of the Samaritans to make ready for Jesus to come through. All right. They were sent ahead. He sent them in front of him to go that they would make ready the place, the area, the city, the village that Jesus was coming into. Right. Y'all following me? Luke 9, and now I'm in verse 53. And they did not receive him. Come on. They went to make ready, but Jesus was passing through. It says, and they did not receive him because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. So because he wasn't going to hang around in the village, they didn't receive him. Now, look at this. Verse 54. And when his disciples, James and John, saw this, all right, so here's James and John, they see that the people are very receptive. They're not being receptive because Jesus was just, all right, he's passing through, he's not staying. And when his disciples, James and John, saw this, they said, Lord, wilt thou that we command fire to come down from heaven? Now, pay attention, pay close attention. They wanted fire. Somebody's saying I'm breaking up. Now, let me see if that may be their connection or somebody else's connection. Am I breaking up? Anybody else? Let me know before I move on. Am I breaking up? Or is it the connection on the other end? All right. So let's go on. And so, all right, thank you. All right, so he goes on, and so James and John saw what was going down. And so he says, Lord, wilt thou that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them just like Elijah did? Now, why do they want fire to come down? All right, here it is. Here's the judgment. Because they were rejected coming into the city, their response to rejection is now they want to pronounce judgment. Oh, come on, prophets, listen to me. Just because you're not received in a place, in a city, by a people, by a church, by a ministry, by a nation, you do not have the authority to call fire down from heaven. You do not have the authority to pronounce judgment on somebody because they don't receive you. Apostle, what do you mean? All right, let's keep reading. Let's keep reading. So now Jesus, what is Jesus' response to the Samaritans? To the Samaritans, what is Jesus' response to the rejection from the Samaritans? This is Jesus' response. Somebody was literally trying to call me on Facebook while I'm doing a live. What is it? Don't call me. Especially, it's probably somebody from overseas. Don't call me. I don't know you. Don't call me. Thank you. All right, back to the word. But Jesus turned, and what did he do? What did he do? Jesus turned and he rebuked them. Why did he rebuke them? Here it is, right here in the same passage. He rebuked them and said, "You know not what manner of spirit you're of." You don't even know what spirit that you are of. You don't even know what spirit you're operating in. You want to call fire out of heaven and consume a whole village of people because you feel rejected. Oh, let me help you tonight. Your church is going to close because you didn't receive me. Don't you know that I'm the prophet of the Lord? The gates of the city shall be shut because I am the prophet of the Lord and you didn't hear me. Come on. Really? Jesus said, you don't know what manner of spirit you're of. What's really going on is that you need to be delivered from rejection. That's the issue. You can't deal with rejection. Rejection rejects. Somebody say that. Somebody put that in the comments for me. Rejection rejects. So the rejection from them not being received in Samaria, the rejection produced and exposed the heart of James and John. Rejection will expose your heart. Oh, come on. How do you deal with rejection? What if your ministry is rejected? What if your word is rejected? We know rejection doesn't feel good. But look at this. Rejection right here is a gauge. Rejection produced and exposed the heart of James and John. Rejection will expose your heart. What is your response when somebody doesn't receive you? You want judgment to fall on them? You want judgment? Oh, you're going to go to hell. You're going to die. Everybody in your church is going to get sick. You didn't receive me. Come on. Jesus said, you do not know what manner of spirit you're of. Luke 9:55. Verse 56, he says this. Now, this is what you need to know. This is what Jesus said. Look, let me hip y'all to something. Let me school you for a minute, James and John. Let me school you. He said this, for the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives. Jesus, I didn't come to destroy men's lives. I didn't come to call fire out of heaven. I didn't come on. He said, I am the stone that the builders rejected. I didn't come to condemn. I didn't come to judge. I didn't come to cause fire to come down out of heaven. He said, for the Son of Man has not come to destroy men's lives, but I came to save men's lives. Now check this out. What was Jesus' response? Apostle Pam, what was his response to this? Prophet Bats, what was Jesus' response to them not receiving him in that city? Here's his response. It says, and they went to another village. You don't want it? You don't want to receive me? I'm just go somewhere else. I go where I'm received. I'll go where the door has been opened. I'll go to the next place that God sends me. You don't call fire down out of heaven. You don't pronounce judgment on somebody's ministry. You don't pronounce judgment on a city, on a nation, because you weren't received. Jesus said, I come to save men's lives. I didn't come to destroy them. And so, yo, you don't want me? Hey, I'm just going to go over to another village. That's all. I'm going over to another village. I'm going to another city. I'm going to another place. I'm going to another conference. I'm going to another city. I'm going somewhere else. But Jesus said, I'm not going to call fire down from heaven. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to condemn you because you didn't receive me. I'm not going to condemn you because you didn't receive me. I'm just going to move on to the next assignment. Somebody said, just move on to the next assignment. Just move on to the next assignment. Just move on to the next assignment. Ezekiel was called to a rebellious house. God told him, hey, they're not going to receive you. They didn't receive me. But whether they hear you or whether they don't hear you, one thing that they're going to know is that there's been a prophet among them. How do they know that there's going to be a prophet among? Because the word of the Lord was in his mouth. The word of the Lord was in his belly. They know that you're a prophet, whether they want to hear it or not. Come on, you know you got words that you didn't want to hear before. But you give the word and you move on. My wife usually always says it like this. Look, it's just like the mailman. The mailman puts the mail in the box. He don't stand around waiting to see if you're going to come out your house. He's not standing around waiting to see if you're going to come out your house and get the mail out the box. The mailman delivers the mail and he goes on about his business. Come on. You deliver the word and you go on about your business. I wonder if they received it. I wonder if they, listen, if you're dealing with that shows your level of maturity right there. It shows your level of maturity right there. It's your duty is to give the word, release the word, and move on. And just move on. I wonder if they received it. I wonder how they took it. I wonder what they thought about that word. Come on. That exposes your level of maturity. That exposes it. Because when you get to a place, as you go through the maturation process in the prophetic, in the development of being a prophet of the Lord, you're going to go through many, many rejections. Many rejections. How you handle each rejection is going to determine how you mature in your office, in your gifting, in your ability. How do you handle rejection? Are you ready to call fire down from heaven? Listen, definitely prophets deal with warning. Definitely they deal with judgment. It's more than edifying when you're dealing in the office of the prophet, but it has to be in its proper context. It has to be in the proper timing. It's based on, again, what is God saying, not based on how you feel because somebody rejected you, like James and John. Let's look at it again. It says that, and they did not receive him in verse 53, and they did not receive him because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. And so James and John saw it, and so they say this, Lord, let's command some fire to come down from heaven. And let's just consume the whole city, just like Elijah did it. No, that's not the answer. Why? Again, because the Son of Man came to save men's lives, not to destroy men's lives. That's it. It's just that simple. And so elements and the development of the prophet's office, the prophet's gift, there are different things that you're going to experience and you're going to go through. Rejection. How do you deal with rejection? How do you deal with abandonment? How do you deal with loneliness? Come on. Let's look at it from another perspective. How do you deal with celebration? How do you deal with accolades? How do you deal with praise? How do you deal with compliments? How do you deal with smooth words and good sayings? The scripture says, let another man's lip praise you. Oh, let another man's lips praise you and not your own. So if you feed on compliments and accolades and praise, see, there's something wrong with that picture. There's something wrong with that picture. So we're dealing with arrogance. You're dealing with pride. How do you handle that aspect of it? Somebody's always got to pat you on the back. Somebody always talking about you the man. How do you handle those types of situations? Do you get the big head? Do you get the big head? Because prophets, because they operate in such a high revelatory gifting, it's easy for you to get puffed up, to get full of pride. Now, remember this when we were, and my wife, we remember this when we were dealing with the prophets in the church some years ago. And we were praying, I was praying about it. And the Lord spoke to me and said, the prophets are full of pride. The prophets that were in our church that we were training, that we were raising up, the Lord said they're full of pride. So I said, God, what do you want to do? He was saying that they were puffed up. So he said, put them on a fast. He said, put them on a fast. I can remember if it was 7 days or 14 days. Honey, how many days was it? Do you remember? I don't know if it was 7 days or 14 days. But he said, put the prophets on a fast. And he said, oh, thank you, honey, 14. And while they're going to eat was unleavened bread and water. Ooh, for 14 days. Hey, I hear it, and then I just dispense the information. 14 days bread. He said unleavened bread. I said, why unleavened bread? He said, because unleavened bread, because bread that had yeast in it symbolized pride, symbolized being puffed up. So he said unleavened bread and water for 14 days. He said, like Obadiah hid the prophets in the cave and he fed them bread and water. Oh, here we go, full circle, talking about the cave. And he gave them bread and water. He said, put them on it for fast for 14 days. Now, I was on the fast with them now. I mean, I didn't put them on the fast and leave them hanging. I was on the fast with them. And I tell you, one of the prophets said this. They said, look, it was not easy. But she said this. She said, Dad, on this fast, she said, I could hear angels walking on clouds. In other words, all the pride was out of the way. The arrogance was out of the way. All the stuff that would interfere with you hearing from God was out of the way. And we came and we prayed every day. We prayed together every day. We prayed together every day. What'd you say, honey? You said they lost. Oh, I forgot I could put this screen, y'all. They lost weight and could hear it clearly. Sometimes that's the best. And you know, when folks fasting for real, they lose weight. They talk, oh, I'm fasting with you. I'm fasting with you. They looking like they look all the time. They ain't fasting. Lord Jesus, they ain't fasting. And so you have to deal with this. What? This flesh. You got to deal with this flesh. And so you can't be full of pride and arrogance and anything like that if you expect to develop into a strong gift, a solid gift, a gift that understands, hears, obeys, speaks, doesn't worry about the outcome. What I mean by that, don't worry about the outcome, like he was talking about. Well, what if they receive me? What if they don't receive me? James and John, no, don't have that James and John spirit. You don't want to judge. You don't want to condemn. Again, the Son of Man came to save men's lives. That's it. The Son of Man came to save men's lives. He said, I did not come to destroy them. I come to save them. And so in this New Testament age, this New Testament dispensation, Jesus tells us this in Matthew chapter 7. Let's look at this. In Matthew chapter 7, and it's around verse 15. So people always want, how do you judge a prophet in this day and time? All right. So many people want to speak on things that they have no literacy about. If you don't know about the prophetic, if you don't know prophets, if you don't understand prophets, then you need to not try to teach about it. Just leave it alone. Everybody's not an expert in every field. When there's things that I need to talk about, if I don't know, I'll go find the expert. Okay. So I'm going to talk about this because I'm an expert in this field. Now, Jesus says this. He says, beware of false prophets, Matthew 7:15, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are raving wolves, right? They may look like a sheep, but on the inside, they're raving wolves. But let me get right to the point. You should know them. So how will you know them? This is the point that I wanted to get to. How do you know them? How do you know them? Ye shall know them by their what? Fruit. not by their gift, but by their fruit. Come on, not by their gift. Somebody, you need to type this in there. How do you know them? How do you know them? You know them by their fruit. You don't know them by their gift. The problem that we have today out in these social media streets is that people want to know prophets by their gift. Oh, I'm talking good. You want to know prophets by their gift. You don't want to know them by their fruit. You don't want to know them by their fruit. You want to know them by their gift. You need to know them by their fruit. Okay? What? Fruit grows, fruit matures. Fruit starts off as a little blossom. It turns into a little fruit, and then it matures throughout the season. So I remember one prophet told the story about a prophet came into a church and he prophesied about a new building or something. I believe it was a new building, and everybody, this visiting prophet prophesied, and everybody was in there, and they were shouting, they were praising God, and they looked over at the prophet that was a part of that ministry, and the prophet was crying. And they asked him, they said, "What's wrong? Everybody's shouting. Why are you crying?" He said, "Because he heard the word of the Lord." He said, "But I'm looking 6 months." God opened up something and showed him 6 months down the road. And the church was full of strife and full of division and full of a whole bunch of other stuff that was going on. So he was weeping while everybody else was rejoicing. So the fruit of the prophet sometimes does not show itself instantly, but it reveals itself over time. So did it bring people, did the prophet of God bring people closer to the Lord? Did he bring them closer to Jesus? Did he lead them to Jesus? Or was your church full of strife and bitterness, poverty? What happened after they left? Now, I've been in places. Let's have some real talk. I got about 10 more minutes. Let's have some real talk. For those of you that just may have been joining me, listen, this is Apostle Marc T. I'm broadcasting live from Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, and you are in the cave, the place where the prophets gather. The prophets are gathering, via online, and I'm in the cave doing the teaching tonight. Come on. And so as you look at these examples that I'm putting out here, and you have the fruit of the prophet that you have to examine, what does it produce after they're gone? Okay? You look at the fruit, not the gift. In these social media streets, it's all about the gift. Ooh, they said this, so they said that. And all of my guests that have come on and been in the cave have mentioned that accuracy is not, this is going to mess with some of y'all, that accuracy is not a sign that somebody is a prophet. Yep. We got time to get into Deuteronomy chapter, I think it's chapter 13 and all that tonight. Listen, that's not a sign. A gift, a strong gift of word of knowledge does not make a person a prophet. What's a word of knowledge? A word of knowledge, supernatural. This is the way I define it: supernatural knowledge of something that I have no natural knowledge of. Like, your name. For example, let me see, I'm looking right here. Oh, your name is Tracy. Your name is Tracy. Okay. Yeah, that was accurate. But that information can come from many different sources. But I'm not teaching that tonight. So your name is Tracy. So now we see that, oh, wow, the gift of word of knowledge, it's an accurate gift. And so we take that and we validate the prophet because they knew that your name was Tracy. But what I always say, God does things with purpose. Okay? You already know your name, and I'm sure God already knows your name, but the prophet calls your name. Why are we entertained? Let's mess with that for a minute. Why are we entertained by that? Now, when you look at the word prophetic, excuse me, in its context, in its original context in the Greek, the word prophetic, it means futuristic. It means future. So saying my name is Mark, not it's present tense. It's present tense. Yes, that's my name. Now, here's where the separation comes in. Now, go from letting me know that my name is Mark, which I already know, but because God holds my future, I know the thoughts that I think towards you, Jeremiah 29:11. I know the thoughts that I think towards you. They're thoughts of good. They're thoughts of peace, to bring you to an expected end. One translation says to give you a hope and to give you what? A future. Now, God wants to give me my future. I already know my name. Come on. You already know your name, but God wants to give you something that's in your future. I hope y'all getting this. I want to give you something that's in the future. Jesus in Revelations, he's the spirit of prophecy. The testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. All right? So what does a witness do? A witness testifies. The testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. What is Jesus testifying about? He's testifying about the future that has been revealed that God says that you can have. And so he speaks from that place of a witness and says, this is your future. This is your tomorrow. Now, we have moved from dealing with, an accurate, because my name is Mark. Oh, that's accurate. Oh, that's right. But now God is revealing my future through the voice of the prophet, revealing something that I don't. Let me see. I ain't got but about 5 minutes. I'm about to mess with something else. Revealing something that I don't know. Oh, I know that just messed with some people. Revealing something that I don't know because it's in my future. Not confirmation. Oh, boy. Not confirmation. Prophecy comes to disrupt your life. Prophecy comes to disrupt your life. It disrupts your life because God shows you a future that you didn't even know you had. Apostle, what are you talking about? I don't have time to get into everybody, but look, Saul in the Old Testament, his father lost his donkeys. He went looking for some donkeys. His servant told him, look, in the city of Zuph, there's an honorable man. Go see him. He went to go find out what happened to the donkeys. And the prophet says, look, you looking for some donkeys, But God is looking for a king because these knucklehead people want a king. They don't want me to be their king. They want to be like everybody else. And so I'm going to make you be their king. Now, check this out. Not only did God speak about the future of him being the king, he told prophet Samuel, this is what the king is going to do to you. He's going to take your wives. He's going to take your children. He's going to take your vineyards. He's going to take your land. You know what they said? They didn't care what the prophet saw. The prophet saw the future. They weren't interested in the future. Oh, come on. They weren't interested in the future. All they were interested in was today. I want to be like the other nations. I want a king like everybody else. They totally ignored the word of the Lord from the prophet of God that said, this is what the king is going to do to you. That's just one example. I mean, we can just go through scripture, how people's lives were disrupted through the prophetic. The prophetic comes, it will disrupt your life. For what you thought it was going to be. Come on, I got this little song that I be messing with. Sometimes I be telling, look, I'm just a dude from the west side. Ain't nothing special about me. I'm just a dude from the west side. God put his spirit on me. You know, look, my life was disrupted. If it was my choice right now, what is today? Wednesday? I could be finding something on TV to look at. But my life was disrupted. And now y'all know who I am. Because my life was disrupted. Come on. Your life, God comes and he will disrupt your life. I'm going to give you one more. And then I'm going to shut this thing down. The angel comes with the word of the Lord and tells this young lady that she's going to have a baby. But she says, I don't know a man. I don't know a man. I ain't been with a man. But the word of the Lord said, you're going to have a child by the Holy Ghost. Life totally disrupted. And I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all go research it. Y'all study it. The prophetic will disrupt your life. So we don't look at it based on the accuracy that deals in the present. Oh, I know your name. Oh, this is your phone number. You live on this street. This is your part of your social security number. Come on, ooh, ah. We ooh and ah over things like that because we are not educated enough in the area of the prophetic. Yeah, I said it. We're not educated enough in the area of the prophetic to understand that is not the tell-all of a prophet, because it's not your gift, it's your fruit. Now, let me break it down a little bit more in this last minute or so I've got. Listen, the fruit is your life. How you living? Okay, this is what Jesus said. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 7. You should know them by the fruit. Do men gather grapes and thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every tree that bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit. Come on. Neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. An evil tree cannot bring forth good fruit. So every tree that beareth not forth good fruit, we should cut it down and throw that thing in the fire. And here he says this. This is Jesus talking. This ain't me. It's in the red letters in case y'all don't know. Y'all got a Bible, don't have no red letters in it. Or you got you on your phone. Look, Jesus said, wherefore by their fruits you shall know them. How you living? What kind of fruit are you producing? I don't need you prophesying to me, and I'm about to get in trouble, but that's okay. I don't need you prophesying to me, and you got 7 babies' mamas. What your fruit look like? I'm looking at your fruit. You got 7 babies' mamas. You might be able to preach. You might be able to prophesy. That's good. Yeah. But that's the gift. I'm not looking at the gift. Jesus told me to look at your fruit. I'm looking at your fruit. Come on. You just had a sex tape last month. I'm looking at your fruit. Then you had a sex tape 2 months from now. I'm looking at your fruit. You shall know them, Jesus said, by their fruit. Oh, you raised a big offering, not by how much money you can raise. Know them by their fruit. And they raised some money. They raised $1,000 for Bishop so-and-so. I don't care how much money you raise. I want to know you by your fruit, not by your gift, by your fruit. That's what Jesus said. By their fruit, you will know them. So bringing it back full circle. So if you're rejected, and your response to rejection is that I want to call down fire from heaven to consume them because they didn't receive me, then you need deliverance. I'm going to read this one more time and then I'm going to shut it down. Rejection, the rejection that the rejection that James and John experienced, it produced and it exposed their heart that they were dealing with rejection and they were dealing with it in the wrong way. They wanted to condemn them. They wanted judgment to come upon them. Come on, get delivered. One thing about rejection rejects. That's what it does. Rejection rejects. All right, y'all, I'm going to leave it right there. Thank you for joining me tonight in the cave. If it's been a blessing to you, right there scrolling across the screen, there are options to sow into what you received on tonight. And we definitely appreciate that. Those of you who have been following us, I want to thank everybody who came out a couple of weeks ago when we had the Enhance Your Business tour here in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for those who are joining up and are joining I have a private, I'm going to announce it tonight, a private group called Crypto Talk. I taught a class on cryptocurrency. So I have a private group called Crypto Talk. And if you message me, I can send you an invitation to have you join that group. I've been giving out little information and tidbits about cryptocurrency and things of that nature. We have another class. We have a class that's coming up real soon. I'm going to be making an announcement and posting about that. So if you're interested, I think we got about 10 or 15. No, let me see. Yeah, 15 to 20 people maybe on a waiting list waiting for the next class to start. So if you want to get on the waiting list, what you do, you just go to marktmay.com. Let me put that in there. And then you just hit the tab that says, I think it's crypto class or something like that. And it'll put you in on the waiting list for when we teach our next class. So thank you so much. Let me give you a shout out. Oh, Christy, what's going on? I haven't seen you hanging out with me for a while. What's up? Sonia, thank you for being on. Let me shout you all out. Hashtag the cave before you go. We need to mess up these Facebook algorithms who don't tell everybody when I'm on. I don't know what's wrong with Facebook. They be tripping. So Prophetess Bats, thank you for being on. I see Apostle Pam, you've been hanging with me tonight. Tia May, thank you for being on. Minister Tim, thank you for being on. I see we have Brenda, thank you for being on. Paulette, thank you for being on. What's going on, Thurman? Thank you for being on. Miriam, thank you for being on. Let's see, who else? Let me see, where you at? What's going on, Apostle? Apostle Prophet Corey Bell, what's going on, man? Good to have you come through tonight. I've been reading your posts. You've been right on point. It's been fire. Hashtag the cave. Drop some fire emojis. Let's mess up these Facebook algorithms real quick. What's going on, Simon Stephanie? Thank you for being on with me. What's up, my nephew up in Detroit? Thank you, Chris, for being on with me tonight. Wow, I tell you, it's been powerful. Listen, I'm gonna make this announcement. You missed the Enhance Your Business tour here in Raleigh, Durham. I'm telling you, it's about to go down in Atlanta. I got my Atlanta. Let me get up. I got my Atlanta hoodie on today. Throwing this out there. They didn't pay me to do this. I'm just saying. You need to get to Atlanta if you miss Raleigh, Durham. I'm just saying. What up? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight in the cave. This has been Apostle Marc T, broadcasting live from Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. Come on, turn on your notifications. Subscribe to my page on YouTube. Also, make sure you follow me so you can keep up with what's going on. Somebody asked me about doing a cave live in person. So that's something that we have on the radar, to do a cave live and in person and bring the prophets in. Man, that would be great. So if you're interested in that, hey, drop me a note. Let me know, and we're going to make some moves and make some things happen. Great. All right, everybody. Thank you again for joining me in the cave. I'll see you next week, same time. What do they say? What they used to say? The same bat place, same bat channel, right here in the cave. We'll be here next week. All right, y'all. Peace.